based off the offseason, I feel like they have the worst roster, and didn't feel like that org was really trying to get a good team for the next split. When you play against like C9, Jensen's going to do well, he can carry. But when you look at them, you're just like, well, maybe they can win a fight late game or something like that to win. But yeah, they're not much of a threat for us.
Not much of a threat. Those fighting words coming out of Hauntzer. Hello and welcome back for our final game of the day as TSM take to the stage versus the Golden Guardians. Selecting blue side, it's TSM with Hauntzer in the top lane. You just heard him talking about this matchup here. MikeYeung in the jungle, Bjergsen mid, Zven bot, Mithy supporting, and Coach Song.
And that means facing them off on the red side. We'll see if they're able to make Hauntzer eat his words. It's going to be Golden Guardians. Top lane, Lourlo, junglers Contractz, high in the mid lane with Deftly and Matt as the bot and support with Coach Tyler coming in for them.
Now, the 0-4 Golden Guardians had some better games last week, but still couldn't translate those early leads into actual victory.
Yeah, they had an 8K gold lead versus FlyQuest, and they had a 5K gold lead versus CLG, and although they didn't win their games, it's still a marked improvement from their week 1 performances, and if they keep this trajectory up, they could be getting their first win shortly.
And as much as you might expect these teams to be different, you could raise very similar criticisms against TSM.
Yeah, TSM, they ended up throwing an 11K gold lead on a tower dive where they could have shown more patience. And once again, I feel like they're suffering from communication issues and a lack of identity. If they struggle to close out against Golden Guardians, that could spell bigger troubles for them than a bad start to the split and would leave them in a place they really don't want to be and tied for last place.
And we heard Hauntzer, like you said, talking smack before the game, what he thought about this Golden Guardians roster and what kind of a threat they posed. And a lot of people didn't have the best first impression of this roster looking at it coming out from the offseason. They were like, okay, I don't really know what to expect from these guys. But TSM, this is a team, this is a dynasty in North America that brought in one of the best bottom lanes, if not the best bottom lane from Europe. People were expecting great things out of them. And this team has not had a fantastic first couple of weeks. So if you're TSM, you're getting to the point where losses aren't really acceptable in terms of what they want to achieve.
I like how you said best bottom lane in Europe and didn't say best in the West, because that has been, now we've been fighting over that title.
We're not looking to start a meme war just yet. We'll wait till at least after week 3 to do that.
Yeah, well, for this week right now, we do have a 1-3 TSM playing an 0-4 Golden Guardians right now. This match right here, I feel like I said before, if TSM lose to Golden Guardians get their first win off of them, that could be something that really crushes their spirits.
Oh yeah, if you're Golden Guardians and you win against TSM, that's how you finally get yourselves on the board. That's going to feel really good. That's going to feel really good. But for TSM, winning this isn't so much a feel-good thing. It's almost we need to meet those expectations that not only the fans and the viewers have of them, but that they have of themselves.
Yeah, and if they win this, they aren't going to be, I would assume, as elated as Golden Guardians, where this is kind of the expectation is that the TSM that has been in every finals of the North American LCS, picking up what people would say is an upgrade bottom lane from Europe, like you said, you would expect them to be towards the top. But right now, they're right towards the bottom and in danger of being tied for the bottom place.
Now let's see how they decide to go about the draft. After all, we've seen the draft have as much impact on the game as the plays you make on the Rift. So looking at how this one's going to go, the Golden Guardians recognized Bjergsen as a true threat. They're going to target him with the first couple of bans, Zoe and Azir. Taken off the table, Kalista and Galio, the bans from TSM.
Which is why last game I was talking a lot about mid lane bans. I expected way more mid than bottom focus. So it was kind of an interesting game last game where we had Tristana and such and Kog'Maw banned away. But here, this seems to make a lot more sense to me, where I would expect things like the Azir, the Galio, Ryze, etc., Zoe to be off the table.
I like the Rengar ban coming out from TSM, keeping that one away from Contractz. We've seen Contractz back when he really made waves last season, back when he was really impressing people in his debut. A lot of it was on these carry-style champions. A lot of it was on these things that we got to see him on, like the Rengar, or him being the first one playing the Kayn and having a good performance on it. So taking one of those off the table, I totally understand it. And Golden Guardians, they're going to make it 3 for 3 on mid bans, removing the Ryze.
Yeah, with so many mids banned away and mid being in a place where some counter picks are vulnerable, I assume you go with something else, and it's going to be Kog'Maw here.
All right, they're drafting for the late game.
Interesting. They're taking an AD carry away where Tristana's still on the table. I was honestly expecting something like Gangplank for Hauntzer in the top lane, which is, we see a lot of first pick Gangplanks when mid is pinched, but it looks like something has come out maybe in scrims or such, where people are prioritizing GP less, where things like Gnar exist and Camille.
And I say they're drafting late game, picking the Kog'Maw, but Kog'Maw's not explicitly late game anymore. That champion can be very powerful if he gets ahead early. I mean, when he hits his spikes, those spikes are very, very scary. Their opponents, they're going to go ahead and go AD carry for AD carry, grabbing the Varus for themselves. We saw Doublelift do some work on it last game for Team Liquid. We'll have to see if Deftly can put up similar numbers. It is going to be a tall order, though.
Considering he is the rookie on the team, definitely there's a lot of eyes on him because he can kind of be the glue that brings the team together. And this bottom lane, this bottom and mid looks very similar to what we just saw.
Deja vu, Zyrene. Deja vu. We've been in this place before. I'm not exactly sure if they can do the same performance as last time, because like I said, it is difficult to have a 10,000 gold lead at 20 minutes, but they saw that it looked like the recipe for success. They saw, or it's most likely not even having anything to do with Liquid. This is their own machination, right? It's very likely that a lot of teams look at a situation and say, oh, hey, with some of the mid changes, the way things are shifting around, Corki, that's the next big thing, and I like kind of seeing this come out. TSM, though, they're sticking to the tried and true. They're going back to the Sejuani in the jungle.
Yeah, Sejuani for the protection and the peel as well as the engage. Very great all-around jungler. I'm a member of the Church of Sejuani, so.
I think you're the pastor in that church, sir.
I would like to think so, but you know, I've fallen off. Taking a break, but Taliyah picked up there.
You're at least still a bishop in my heart.
There you go. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But yes, Bjergsen with the Taliyah, and if Golden Guardians are going to go for the same draft as TL, their next pick would be Tahm Kench here to keep the Varus safe, or at least there's 280 carries, and I wonder if they will go for that, because it is up, and it would be a strong support pick here.
I mean, we've seen Kench be very effective, not just, you know, in the game we just watched, but in other games as well. They are going to go for the Zac instead. Remember, in the previous game, Zac was banned away in ban phase 2. Golden Guardians putting plenty of value onto that, saying we need to engage, we need to be able to get onto this Kog'Maw and onto this Taliyah. They picked the Zac up.
And you can see there, Golden Guardians talking about their bans. That's Coach Tyler in the back. The guy does have a history. He's been around for 3+ years in the professional scene. He was an analyst for Fnatic back in 2015 when they had their 18-0 run. And then he was an analyst for Immortals when they went 17-1. And then he started working for Phoenix One in the last year in 2017. And now he's he's the coach for Golden Guardians right now on stage, helping them with those picks and bans. His first coaching position as opposed to being an analyst.
Let's see what he can do for this team as we enter into the second part of the bans here. Janna banned away by the Golden Guardians. I like focusing towards those peel-based supports when your opponents have such a threatening backline. Cannon as the Kog'Maw, kind of denying the ability to keep him safe. TSM taking a different approach, getting rid of the divers.
Yeah, interesting because Lourlo on the Camille, it would be one of the first kind of damage dealers he's played this split. He's mostly been playing those tanks, the Maokai and whatnot, and relegated to those being the tank for the team. But with the Zac in the jungle, it would give them a lot of power. So I like the ban. The Golden Guardians seemed like they were just trying to get rid of the Janna, which would stop the Zac from getting in, and really put a stopper on him.
Well, they've banned out the Jace now as well on the side of Golden Guardians. TSM, one ban left to go before we get into these last couple of picks for each team. Banning the Camille out first, obviously targeting those things that could be a threat to the back line, and now getting rid of the Taric, they're getting rid of that element that may be able to shut down that massive damage potential.
And now I'm wondering what the pick is here, because I would assume it's Gnar based off of just tier lists, because Camille is banned away and so are Jace. But if you pick Gnar, they might pick GP. If you pick GP, then I'll probably pick Gnar. Let's see what happens here. So yeah, the Gnar is what I would expect with the two biggest counters out of the way. And this actually stops what I would think would be a GP pick, because Gnar is quite good into him. So we may see a Maokai come out here to protect the Kog'Maw, or an Ornn for a little bit more engage.
Or
really,
you could just see that GP. Hauntzer was saying he doesn't believe that there's really much to worry about with the Golden Guardians. Maybe there's nothing to worry about for him in lane 2. Picking it up, locking it in.
I like that. He's putting his money where his mouth is, because you talk about who's supposed to be the carry. Well, it doesn't matter. If I let this guy from the top lane, if I let Lourlo have a matchup where I think he'll be able to just crush me if I'm playing Maokai or a tank and have free will, then why am I doing that when I can just go ahead and batter him down? So he picks the Gangplank, which does struggle in barrel fights against the Gnar, and their team fight impact is pretty similar, except I say the GP goes a bit further if the Gnar can't get the ultimate off.
Well, he talked the talk. Now it's time to walk the walk. Final pick for TSM is going to be Braum, locked in there for Mithy, so more protection, more disengage.
Yeah, and you talked about how Kog'Maw, you're like, he's not exclusively a late game carry anymore. He does spike quite early and he spikes hard. The Braum helps him, because the Braum passive plus Kog'Maw, who gets all that extra range to chase people down in lane. If you land a Winter's Bite, you can go for kills in lane, especially against something like the Varus here.
All right, Karma locked in, final pick for Golden Guardians. This is another game where I think it's interesting to look at the bottom lanes because you've got Zven and Mithy, one of the best in EU, in a lot of people's minds, best in the West, right? These guys are good, and they're going up against a largely unproven bottom lane in Golden Guardians. I talked about this last week. You've got Deftly and you've got Matt. Deftly coming out of the challenger scene. Matt being on the, honestly, not super successful in 2017 Team Liquid. Both of these guys have things to prove. They're going up against a time and again proven bottom lane on TSM. This is a test.
And Golden Guardians, like you said, that test is huge for them, but TSM at the same time, the best in the West, that title is slowly, I would say, fading because they got crushed multiple times already and the team has not been gelling. And it just goes to show that a 5-man kind of unit where people aren't working together, everybody's an individual, you aren't going to look that great. But if you can get that team on the same page, allow each other to function, you're going to look great.
It's what Dash was talking about on the desk after last game. You can have 5 incredibly talented individual players, but it's when you get to see those 5 individual talents merge together as a single talented team, man, that's when it really sings. And so far, TSM hasn't found their tune.
Yep, not yet. That identity is still lacking a bit here, and it just looks like they'll get ahead, and then they'll play for late game even when ahead. Whereas you see teams like TL, sometimes Echo Fox, when they get ahead, they just keep pushing. No late game, don't let it happen.
Well, let's see if TSM has worked out some of those issues from the first couple of weeks, if this is going to show up as the TSM that a lot of people were expecting them to be, a sort of powerhouse in 2018, or if the Golden Guardians can get themselves on the board here. We talked about at the very beginning the setup for this match, Irene. Golden Guardians have had some really awesome early games. They've got some fantastic leads, but the issues come in the mid game. They come in the shot calling and with that decision making that ultimately causes things to fall apart.
Yeah, and Hai has kind of stepped back a tiny bit from being like the pure shot caller. I think he does kick into that mode though, most of the time in those stressful situations, but the team is trying to figure out and give everybody voices so that they can really come together and have everybody be represented, because Hai is not, a support master or a top lane master, right? So it's just giving and feeding information and making those calls that'll move them further and further.
Of course, a little bit of information there on your screen. You can tune into The Lounge on Riot Games 2 with Azale, Power of Evil, and Forbidden. They're going to be commentating this game themselves, sort of getting a view from the pros on what they think of this one, seeing what those mid laners
I always go back and
think of this.
Watch those. Those are just such a treat, to be honest.
It's so casual, too.
Yeah.
Just everybody hanging around, shooting the breeze about games. It's a good time. Go check it out if you've never seen it before. Or you can stay here and hang out with us. It should be a fun game to watch as we see Deftly and Matt approach into the forwardmost brush. Maybe they're going to be setting up a little bit of a trap here for TSM.
Well, they do have the Karma, so you can get the shove advantage and just keep the enemy team under turret. Remember, it was the melee support into range support that kind of made range supports just push them out of the meta, and we had this Ardent Sensor going on, the Karma even before that.
Don't remind me. I don't want to go back to Ardent Sensor days, Irene.
Well, he's going to try to go for maybe a Mantra Q as they enter.
Does find it.
Yeah.
Then steps on the second half of it.
He saw that coming, though. He was like, all right, well, it could be in there, and just kind of read it. That was really well played there in terms of instincts and reacted to the possibility. But they are zoned from the wave, and this means the Golden Guardians will have pressure, and they'll probably hit level 2 here if they keep this pressure up. And something I wanted to touch on here is one of the players that I've actually personally been watching pretty heavily is MikeYeung on TSM. Right now, he has played Jarvan, Shyvana, Kha'Zix, and Evelynn. He's not played a single tank except for that Jarvan, which I would consider more of an early aggressive jungler than a late game tank. And he's only done 9% of his team's damage to champions. Cool. So he has been dying very quickly. He has been jumping into these fights as Kha'Zix, Evelynn, etc., and having really poor games. But this will be his first game on a pure tank in the jungle, and I want to see what TSM look like when MikeYeung isn't playing that style that he was known for back on things like Phoenix 1, and now he has to enable his carries instead of B1.
At the same time, even if Mike is known for more of that carry style, you have to look at this team. You look at the names on this team. You look at Bjergsen and Hauntzer, 2 of the most renowned solo laners in North America. You look at Zven and Mithy, one of the best-known bot lanes in Europe, now playing in North America. And then you look at MikeYeung, the rookie, the guy who had his debut last season. This is the guy that you would expect to be the one to be on more of a supportive role, backing up this all-star, well-established cast. Now he's finally got the opportunity to do that. They're saying, okay, we're going to switch this up, have you play more of that supportive role.
And now he's gone from bottom side leash to top side to Raptors to back down to bottom to try and capitalize on the fact that it's a shoving lane. But I feel like they spotted him as he entered that bush just barely, and they played Vactor. So Ward potentially really well placed.
Deftly and Matt content to just keep farming things up here. Gonna look at the keystones real quick as we have some downtime. Fleet footwork on both your AD carries this time around. Airy and Guardian on your supports. Matt with the Airy, of course, Mithy having the Guardian. So no spell books this time around. You're not gonna see any of that wonky mid-game tempo that comes out of supports teleporting all over the place. You do have an attempted engage here in the bottom lane. They want to get the stun from the winner's bite. There comes MikeYeung, able to find the stun, the first blood to TSM.
Exactly what they're looking for here, enabling the bottom lane. The flash is blown to try and make that happen. Mithy with the mark, not having to blow his own flash there. So when Matt comes back to lane, a flash Braum play could be a return.
You brought that up when we were talking about the Kog'Maw and the spikes, Zyrene. Winter's Bite is such an enabler, and that's what it enables.
There's so much range. Once you just hit him, tag him, Winter's Bite for the slow, Matt flashes, but I feel like it's already too late. He's already marked up, and that's Zven gonna activate the W, get that extra range, pop, goes the passive, and then you have the flash in from MikeYeung.
Mid lane, High versus Bjergsen. Bjergsen with a slight CS lead for now, and just gonna continue farming up on that Taliyah. Again, referencing, we saw what Corki can do last game, but at the same time, you don't see that every time around. Taliyah can be a very difficult champion to deal with too, just because she can clear the wave super easily, she can roam very easily. Taliyah doesn't need to beat you 1 versus 1 to do her job.
Yeah, enable the team, potentially play around the bottom side of the map. I mean, these are low mobility carries on the side of Golden Guardians, right? Like this bottom lane, I feel like is prime material for throwing Sejuani ultimates, sectioning them off with a Taliyah wall. Like this is a bottom lane where without a Tahm Kench, without somebody who would be able to get away like a Tristana, I'm all over that.
Zven and Mithy all over these creeps. They just farm them up underneath the turret. 41 to 46. Still a slight edge for Deftly down there.
Yeah, expected because of the fact that it's a ranged into a melee support matchup.
Right.
So you would be zoned from the creeps early like we saw. And it's hard to play around that because the enemy will get level 2 first. They'll hit level 3 first. And sometimes they hit level 3 when you're level 1 if you aren't able to contest the wave at all. But they're still able to play around that. So the fact that they're only down, I would say, 2 CS for the Kog'Maw is still quite good for them, especially since they got the kill on the bottom side too.
Worth pointing out this game, I also want to draw attention real quick to the fact that first Drake is Cloud, so don't expect to see the same kind of crazy fight around the 10-minute mark that we got to see in the previous game, simply because it's not worth having that kind of a fight over. It's not worth blowing 16 stopwatches at once and everybody going crazy. So.
Oh, I don't know, man. Ever since I learned that the free boots, the magical footwear, has a 30-second, it's 30 seconds off of takedowns, kills or assists, taking a Drake gives 30 seconds off everybody on your team. It's magical footwear.
Yeah, I learned that today too. That was actually something I had no idea was a function in the game, but turns out if you take the Drake, it works that way. MikeYeung stealing away that Gromp from Contractz. Level 6 on the Sejuani. Zach's still level 5. There's a big divergence in the power between those two. A big difference, I should say.
I wonder if they will dive bottom with their level 6 Sejuani and level 6 Taliyah. Let's find out.
Thinking emoji.
Hello, Matt.
There it is. Stunned up, brought down. More damage coming in. Matt nearly going to drop. There you go. Now, can they make it 2? Contractz trying to get himself away. The seismic shove not quite finding the mark. Winter's Bite goes through. The cannon barrage. But he walks away anyway.
Still gets away. Run, little flubber. And
he got out. He got out. He has his little mini Zac strut going on.
This is so tiny. But still, I really like that play from TSM. That just seems like something Golden Guardians should see coming because 100%, Contractz just saw MikeYeung steal that camp away from him, hit level 6. Contractz sees it coming, but then the fact that Bjergsen even gets there, I feel like Matt was already dead at that point before Bjergsen's even in there. And now you're in a worse situation because Deftly has no flash, and that's going to be the focus once again. All of TSM's comp can just go towards this bottom lane. 3 people on the top side of the map can all contribute to that fight.
And I like seeing them all contribute together because that's showcasing that they're not just 5 talented players. They're 5 talented players talently playing together talentedly. They're doing exactly what you want to see them do if they want to move up from this 1-3 record.
You're saying they're talented?
Yes,
okay.
And players.
In case that wasn't clear. Oh, but yes. I really do like that they played around that bottom side, though, like we were saying, because the cannon barrage will help, the Taliyah wall will help, and when they got that flash early on, MikeYeung now just gets to kind of have those free Sejuani ultimates onto the Karma. And this is one of those reasons that like range supports started becoming less and less popular as a lot of engage came from the bottom half of the map, right? When you have Alistars, Braums, they constantly will try to engage. Even Shen became a support onto these squishy things like Janna Karma. And so far, I think the Janna that we saw in the NALCS got destroyed, and then this Karma right now is already off to a 0-2 start.
But I'm really liking what we're seeing out of MikeYeung so far. Just playing on that tanky Sejuani, it kind of changes your mindset a little bit too, right? Because if you're playing one of those carry-style junglers and you don't make something happen early and you sort of just let it ride and get to late game, you're not nearly as useful if your opponent is one of those big frontline tanks that's just going to be an exceptional team fighter. Mike knows he's going to be useful as this game goes on. He doesn't have that pressure to make all these crazy plays, and he can just assess things very much in a relaxed way, I should say. And it's allowing him to say, okay, this is the best play, this is where we're going to read. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But then when it does, he's just that much better off.
And he got both those kills himself. So he's ahead of the enemy jungler, both in farm and in kills. So the fact he's up against not an aggressive jungler, but somebody who wants to farm, and he's already about 1,100 gold up, it's going to definitely bode well for him in almost all the 2-on-2s that they get into.
All right, we'll have to see if they continue to focus in this bottom lane here. Deftly and Matt, they have summoner spells back up on Matt. Only the heal up on Deftly, though. Flash still down for a little while longer. Lourlo and Hauntzer checking in on these guys that we haven't really touched on much so far, as Hauntzer finds himself losing a trade for now. Lourlo about to go into Gnar.
Who's the carry?
From up into the wall. Hauntzer trying to turn this one back around. Lourlo disengaging.
Gets the ultimate out of him, but they both trade it. No summoner spells blown there. And the GP popping a heal on himself and out of Corrupting Potion charges.
I like seeing him go for it, though.
I feel like he has a decent advantage here, though, with the Sheen. Yeah, and they both are sitting on 1,700 gold, so it was kind of the Sheen purchase in exchange for the Ninja Tabai. And look at this, Bjergsen just playing towards the bottom side of the map, saying, we're going to dive your bottom lane again. Definitely has no flash. And he's just basically telling him what the strat is.
That half of High's health bar was threaded volley. Just so everyone's aware, that was 5 hits from threaded volley. Took half of High's health. Really, really tough if you get caught in a position where Taliyah can land all of those on you, just because it's so much damage loaded onto a single spell, because normally it's gated around the fact that you won't hit all 5. But High not in the best position from that one, has to pretty much spin the package for a lot of nothing.
And the fact that Bjergsen got himself the Sorcerer's Shoes immediately, so he has those tier 2 boots, and he can very quickly chase people down and make sure that all of the parts of the threaded volley land.
That was not the package. It's my mistake. His spaceship is just yellow.
Oh, yeah, the chroma.
Yeah. It's the chroma. Normally, you've got a blue spaceship with yellow rockets when he has package. You see a yellow spaceship, it throws you off sometimes. Ooh. But not package expended. He still has the blue buff here for a little bit longer, so High has the ability to farm up from range safely if he needs to, but Bjergsen has so much control over this lane Irene. Now he's just doing the classic steal the enemy raptors away. Misses out on the big one a little, unfortunately.
Classic.
As MikeYeung decides he's going to start up the Rift Herald for himself. And it looks like Golden Guardian's not even concerned about that. No knowledge of that.
Don't know if they know, yeah. Right now, they're concerned with make sure our bottom lane is safe. All their wards are on the bottom side of the map. And right now, we have TP back from Hauntzer.
Lourlo has to get away. Already at half HP and in mini-Gnar form. Does not want to be right there when the Gangplank shows back up.
Yep.
But that means Bjerg able to work together with his jungler here, take this Rift Herald down. Like trying to maneuver around. Sometimes Shelly gets pretty trolly, turning around with that eyeball.
Yeah.
You think you're in the right spot to smack it, and then she turns around. Contractz trying to go in, not landing the stretching strikes or the elastic slingshot. Now getting himself back. High, falcing forward, trying to find some damage here. Flashes away from MikeYeung's counterattack, but they're still looking to make more happen. Stopwatch comes out. Will it buy the time he needs? I do not think so. Bjergsen grabbing the kill on that one as they're going to make it 2. The passive will not do enough for Contractz. You give that one over to Bjerg. You give him the double, and it's a 4-0 game for TSM.
Now their bottom lane is definitely in a good spot, and their mid lane is in a great spot as well. And they might push for 2 turrets here, because Shelly's going to kill this one right off the bat.
Headbutt should take it down to nearly 0. Yep, brings you down to practically nothing. Bjergsen's auto attacks along with MikeYeung should finish this one off. Almost no contest.
She's going to get another hit on this one here.
Yep. You're not going to get the second one all the way, but you are still going to manage to get some decent damage.
Yeah, it's very early in the game, so those respawn timers. But Contractz, yeah, pretty much an overextension there. And he still sticks around, and then High goes in. This is just an aggressive play from High. And it looks like Contractz is not on the same page. They did not have vision on the top side. They saw that the Rift Herald went down because of the call-out, and they still stick around. And I was talking about winning those 2-on-2s as MikeYeung is so far ahead. 2 levels up. that is just something where the tank jungler is just going to get much better fight, especially since his engage was cleaner.
Double kill for Bjergsen, 2-0 and 0 on the Taliyah now. Sorcerer Shoes, Morello Namicon, going up against a Corki that's still juggling around Trinity Force components. When you look at the gold lead between these two, it's only 200, but Bjergsen just feels so strong.
Well, he's juggling those Trinity Force components, and he no longer has that mid lane turret, which against Taliyah, Taliyah gets to shove you in. He had a minion dematerializer, so he gets to push these even faster than Taliyah normally would because of that extra damage you deal after using them. So he'll be able to push those out, and then he can roam to either mid or top. So now I'm really looking, or bottom or top, and now I'm really looking at Bjergsen, which one of the criticisms has been, can he push that advantage this season? It hasn't really been what he's been doing. Can he do it here? Because this game, he's primed to do so.
Strike number 2 for me, by the way, that was 1,200, not 200. I knew there was no way that added up to 200 because of the fact that his items look so much better. But now the fight in the bottom lane, Mithy going for the Glacial Fissure, not going to be finding anyone, but Bjergsen's lead has some weight to it now in the mid lane. The entire TSM lead has some weight to it. It's 5,000 gold at 14 minutes. This team is in a position to continue to make plays, continue to press the issue, which was one of our complaints. One of our criticisms of them is, why does this team seem to want to wait to win? It's like they're banking on 6 items and winning a big team fight and ending the game at 50 minutes. But so far this game, things are looking different.
Yep, and they can test the blue buff. That's one of those classic TSM moves that you knew from like Bjergsen and Svenskeren, where it would just be blue buff, 7 minutes, get in there, blue buff, boom, next spawn, third spawn, go. And they're able to get it there at the 14.5 because of that mid pressure that they have from Bjergsen. And this is really where TSM historically have shined, using Bjergsen's pressure in the mid lane to enable them taking camps and controlling the map.
Turret number 2 goes down. TSM giving the solo gold on that one over to their AD carry, brings them up to a 6,000 gold lead. They start up on the Cloud Drake as well. That's kind of how the Cloud Drakes go. You just, once it's convenient, you take them. They're not prioritized, but that extra movement speed is going to be helpful for TSM as they do have the tempo in this game. They can rotate around the map more effectively. They can cut off their opponents more effectively. And
right now, because of that, cutting off, they're going to push up mid, I would assume, and then try to go through topside jungle to get that last turret, since they just got the Cloud Drake and there's nothing in the bottom half of the map for them to take, except for maybe a tier 2 turret. You definitely want to play towards that top side because you get 5+ minutes to do so here before another objective comes up.
Taking a look at the top lane, Hauntzer versus Lourlo. These two guys are going very close right now, very even, 160-ish CS to 160-ish CS, a very slight lead for Lourlo. But in the gold, it's Gangplank who's ahead by almost 1,000 because remember, going even with Gangplank is falling behind.
Yeah, turrets, parlay, kleptomancy, it all adds up to 1,000, almost 1,000 gold here. It's an advantage for Hauntzer, so he'll slowly just start pushing that up, sitting on a barrel, waiting for him to push up.
They're not going to push up. They'll just leave that out.
That's the kind of punish that happens in solo queue and not so much pro play.
Right.
Where pros just kind of always treat it like blackjack, where face down card is always a 10. So you always just assume he's in there. So you can be punished very heavily if you don't.
77 CS on Contractz' Zach. 134 on MikeYeung's Sejuani.
MikeYeung's having a damn good game so
MikeYeung is having a game, man. Full kill participation, nearly double the CS of the enemy jungler. This stylistic shift is working out.
And he's in the right place at the right time. That is exactly what matters, because as a jungler, a lot of it is jungle timing and pathing, and he was able to be on the right side of the map, get the flashes, get the ulti, and constantly put pressure onto Deftly and Matt, who had a winning bottom lane.
Now TSM rotating everybody up to the top side. 5 men strong. You've got Hauntzer backing out. He's going to teleport into bottom lane to stabilize that one against Lourlo's push. The rest of TSM is plenty enough to take down that third and final outer turret, and that just means less and less map control, less safety for Golden Guardians. TSM can now push up into the jungle. They can put wards down. They can set traps. They can make tighter rotations.
Yeah, this is interesting because I feel like TSM now actually have to put the brakes on a tiny bit because they are at a TP disadvantage versus High and Lourlo both having theirs. So Hauntzer would pretty much only be able to contribute to a fight by using the ultimate, the Cannon Barrage. So he'll have to get a split push going if he wants to keep Lourlo occupied. But if Golden Guardians want to be proactive or find an opportunity to do so, they could definitely take a fight and try to kind of take their chances of having more numbers for a brief period.
They have to make sure they execute properly, though. The one time we did get to see Golden Guardians try to be proactive this game was mid lane, where they looked to make that fight onto Bjergsen, and then it was turned around by MikeYeung, ultimately resulting in 2 kills for the TSM mid laners. So It can't just be, okay, we've got an advantage, let's do this. Whatever this is, needs to be right.
Yeah. Right now, like I said, Hauntzer has to apply pressure to Lourlo to make sure he doesn't get an opportunity to teleport, whereas I think the rest of TSM have to play safe. And you were saying like you want to see them push and keep the tempo up. Like I said, I definitely think it puts a damper on it, and we're going to see them play a little bit slower until that teleport is back up. Unless they can kind of orchestrate a play soon, which would, I feel like it's just too risky. Most pro teams wouldn't go for something like that.
Let me correct my statement. I want to see them push and keep the tempo up, provided they don't turn the game into a fiesta. We have to put that little bit of an asterisk on there. Add a little bit of...
Do like a fiesta, though.
I mean, a fiesta now and again can be all right, but after TSM Optic, I don't know if we can handle another 60-minute fiesta if they end up going all the way into that territory. Hopefully, they can end up making this game a little bit cleaner one way or the other.
Well, for TSM's sake, you would hope the same as well, because right now, 1-3 up against the 0-4 team, the Golden Guardians, who haven't picked up a win yet. TSM, they have an 8,000 gold lead. They're in a really good spot now versus Golden Guardians, and now they can have that luxury of just not having to pressure as much and waiting for Hauntzer's TP.
And honestly, for both these teams, what I want to see is clean mid-games. We talked about in Champion Select, before Champion Select even, they have similar weaknesses in that it seems like things are falling apart in the mid-game despite early leads. So whoever gets the early lead, I want to see a cleaner transition into the mid-game, into the late game from that. I don't want to see random throws at Baron, or random throws at tower dives, or random throws wherever, honestly. You want to see them clean up those areas.
Yeah, you want to see somebody make the first move, get them out of that neutral game and have an advantage, and then find a way to keep pushing it. And I like this. When your TP's down, go to where the TP is and push. Lourlo, this is definitely them being caught unawares here on Golden Guardian's side, because you just had Zven and Mithy mid pushing it out, and then they just rotate over.
I will try to get a return turret take here in the top side, but the Cannon Barrage cleans up enough of those minions that it's going to buy them at least another wave. So those minions are way away right now. Like, he's going to have to wait at least 15 seconds here for those to come up and get all the way underneath the turret. So Hai still spending all his time up there as TSM continue to shove out across the rest of the map.
He may actually abandon it because he hasn't seen Taliyah, and if he's keeping timers, he could say she'd be here in a second. So either going to bring reinforcements to him, or he's just going to back off, because I don't think he stays. Yep, we have God Vision, he doesn't, and he's like, Taliyah could be here, and Sejuani could be here, because I haven't spotted them.
And that's what you always have to keep in mind when you're watching these games from a spectator standpoint, right? Is how is your thought process going to be different from our thought process, considering we get to see exactly where everybody is. You have to take into consideration what he actually sees, what he knows for sure. And like you said, face down cards at 10. You can't risk that because the cost of being wrong is so immense.
Yeah, and that's at one of those points too. We'll keep with blackjacks up, right? We'll keep talking about that. Where you just saw a whole bunch of number cards. You're like, okay, maybe he definitely has a face down card that's 10. You count cards at that point. Where you're saying, all right, we saw them on this side of the map. Now there could be two here. It's likely that they're here. But they were just a little bit delayed, because I actually think Bjergsen looked like he was going mid, and MikeYeung took a while to get back. So Hai, in the normal play, was unsafe. But in this play, he actually had a few more seconds that he could have been aggressive.
All right, on to Drake number 2, TSM goes. Mountain Drake, the one that starts to become more and more useful as the game goes on, becomes more and more important to secure Baron. Mountain Drake can be the difference in doing that or not sometimes. This should be secured no contest by TSM. And one thing I want to point out is Gangplank was on your screen there. Essence Reaver's second item.
Interesting.
Very damage heavy for Hauntzer. A lot of the time you're going to see that Sterix Gauge come out, protecting Gangplank a little more. But this time around, he wants crit. He wants some cooldowns.
I saw the Caulfield's Warhammer and thought it was going to be Youmuu's Ghostblade, because we see Trinity Force, Sterix, Youmuu's Ghostblade.
That's like the
for
core.
A lot of them, right? This is going to be a little bit more in that crit-oriented build, which can hit for an immense amount of damage onto things like, you know, the Corki and the Varus. But the Essence Reaver didn't when you buy it first, it doesn't have all the crit it needs to get you all that cooldown reduction. Now he has
a Zeal item
behind it. So now he's at that point with the 30%.
So now he's got cooldowns. He's working on more crit. His barrels are going to be very scary. Remember, with the Zeal item, once it's fully evolved into whatever he decides to scale it up into here, that thing is going to work together with the Essence Reaver to give him a 50% crit chance. So you have every other barrel effectively going to be hitting for so much damage. The Golden Guardians are going to have to be super aware of those. They're going to have to shut those down and manage to auto-attack them. Because if you walk into one like that with more than one person, you could get chunked out of a fight, lose Baron, lose turrets. It's very dangerous.
And he has super low CDR right now. He's at 45% CDR because he has Cosmic Insight. He doesn't have Transcendence, though, so he won't be turning his CDR that's over the cap into more AD or AP. So he does have the 20% from the Trinity Force, and then he has the other 20 that he needs from the Essence Reaver. So he has that 45, so it makes his Cannon Barrage an 88-second cooldown right now. It makes it so that his barrels are only a 5.5-second cooldown. So that's actually going to be very scary, because having those barrels, a lot of the big complaint with GPs, or especially people who play GP for the first time, a lot of it is, I don't have enough barrels, right? Because you get them later in the game where they come up faster. So you want to do those fancy chains. This helps you get those chains out, because you can only hold a max of 3 barrels. So doing the 3-barrel chain does tax your entire inventory of them and could make you useless for the rest of the fight. So you want them back up as fast as possible.
All right, TSM now taking vision control around this Baron area. This seems to be the next area that they may look to focus on, may look to force something out. 24 minutes into the game, still a 4-0 kill lead. They've got a 9,000 gold edge, though. This is enough of a lead to force something onto Baron early.
And it just keeps piling up. Like you said, like the Gangplank, he's printing money. It's kind of illegal, right? He's just got the parlay going. He's got the klepto going, and he just keeps getting bank. And he's right now, he's 0-0-0. Lourlo is also 0-0-0. The fact that there's 4 turrets that were taken, though, should help him a bit, but he's up just over 2,000 gold. So he's 2,100 above him just because of the fact that he's pretty much Gangplank. And that's not all turret gold. I assure you that it's not all turret gold, because their CS is pretty much the same too.
TSM continuing to shove out, looking at those gold leads. Like you said, 2K in the top lane, 3K in the jungle, 2K in the mid lane, 1.5 there in the bottom lane as MikeYeung drops the ulti here, trying to make the moves onto the enemy support. He doesn't have his team close enough. Deftly getting himself out with the flash. Mike's going to be taken low here, but remember, he has Warmogs, so all he has to do is walk out, hang out for 10-15 seconds, he'll be back up at full.
It's one of those big things about the Sejuani. Warmogs first. Lourlo, though?
Oh, Lourlo trying to make that 1 versus 1 against Hauntzer. Pay him back for those harsh words before the game here. Turret destroyed. That's finally 1 turret going down. Golden Guardians getting that one thanks to High. Lourlo trying to run away here. Zven and Mithy coming in, looking to punish him for trying to force that fight, and Zven grabs the kill for himself. That's his first kill of the game.
That's that exit route from the TSM bottom lane. They went from that mid lane over to the bottom side. They went through a ward that was placed in the middle lane too. We saw the debris just there. And Lourlo has to just run. He runs through the jungle and he gets picked up.
5-0 TSM. 9,000 gold lead still. The state of the game remains very, very similar to what it was before. TSM not finding those opportunities to really force something onto Baron or force something else onto a turret. And I'm expecting them to. With a 9,000 gold lead, there should be something that you can make happen when you have 9 out of 10 summoner spells.
Yeah, 9,000 gold lead. They have both Drakes to their name. Only giving up that 1 turret. So far it's a shutout, not a perfect game. So they can keep that up. And I like what Hauntzer did bottom, where he engaged. A lot of times we see stuff, and it's like, oh, he's trying to flex on him. He's trying to 1v1 kill him. Actually, he's trying to slow him enough so that the bottom lane is communicating. They're on their way. And at that point, Lourlo's kind of dead to rights as soon as he started to buy into that fight against Hauntzer.
Right.
So it's one of those things where the fight is actually a bait, because even if you die, you're probably going to pick him up. But if you're good about it, you won't die. You have your flash, and then you'll be able to collapse on him. And that's what Hauntzer was able to do with his team, is communicate that they have map pressure. There's no way this is a counterable play from Golden Guardians, and that you're able to pick up a free kill. Basically, if you want food, free kill bottom.
Hauntzer was the enabler, not the executioner, but now TSM executing onto Baron. Got it down under 3K already. Bjergsen throwing out the wall, looking to keep the enemy jungler away. Contractz is prevented entry, and TSM get themselves a Baron, a 10,000 gold lead, and we'll have to see what they can push with this.
There's just so much pressure from TSM. Golden Guardians, Lourlo had TP, had Gnar, decided not to TP into that fight, and it looked like they were just potentially going for a steal from Contractz, but he gets Sejuani ultied, and it's very clean. MikeYeung at that point pretty much doing all the work. That's one of those ones where the jungler is 100% responsible for everything that happens there. Good on MikeYeung.
Yep, really good job from
Great
Mike.
game.
Also want to point out, considering we're seeing a couple different itemization choices this game, Zeal built next on Lourlo's Gnar. We've seen this a couple times so far this split. They go for a Phantom Dancer to make themselves stronger in a split push situation. But remember that it does make you much squishier in a big team fight.
Yeah, and it looks like Hauntzer's more focused on getting those pop shots. You know, it's the Glock Gangplank. Just hit him with the zap and the static shift. Because that on barrels, not really that great. I don't actually think it actually triggers the damage to bounce over. I could be wrong on that, but It's mostly for just getting the pot shots on people.
Bjergsen shoving up top side, High making a sneaky back to get himself out of danger here. TSM, pressure in the mid lane, pressure in the top lane, bottom lane being left to its own devices as it pushes. Nobody there supporting it just yet. You still have Hauntzer hanging out in between these two lanes as the rest of TSM rotates themselves towards the top side, looking for these tier 2s. Remember, they still got 2 more of these to take. And when you have a 10,000 gold lead, when you have Baron, these are just free money hanging out on the map. Should be no contest whatsoever for Gold Guardian.
You have a 10,000 gold lead, and you have the composition that I would say scales. Right. You have the Gangplank, you have the Sejuani, you have the Kog'Maw. These are all going to be great champions at this point, and with a 10k gold lead, just forcing it.
I like this play from TSM. Bjergsen throwing out the walls, zoning them away. High and Matt alone cannot stand there and defend this turret 2 versus 4. Now, TSM, 5 men strong. We're going to take down inhib number 1, get some more map pressure, get some more control, try to lock this game away. Barrels fired off, Contractz losing some HP. TSM now backing away the Golden Guardians. No way to defend that.
Yep, TSM in a place where they found themselves up against Echo Fox. 11,000 gold up, get the inhibitor. Now they're being systematic about taking this, but they can't be overly patient. That's the thing. They can't be overly patient, but they do scale better than their opponents, which isn't what they had going for them in Echo Fox's game.
And we also saw in the game that they had versus Optic, the one that took 60 minutes to end, TSM seemed overly patient. They weren't able to find the opportunity to lock the game away, and even though they won, oh, it was so much closer of a game than anybody thought it would be. TSM needs to show right here that they have what it takes to close a game out quickly, because so many times in the past I've talked about, I don't judge how good a team is based on strictly how many games they win. It's the style in which you win. It's how clean your wins are, how quick your wins are. That's what I want to see from a team that really shows how good they are.
Yeah, because there are games where you should have no business winning them, right? Those are the ones that I always kind of count against teams. But if there's one where it's just completely overwhelming, you don't drop anything, and it's a team that's below you in the standings, well, you get a better idea of where you should be. And TSM are trying to say, we don't belong down here.
Well, High forced to use the package to get himself away there, so that's one big team fight tool not available for the Guardians any longer. Baron only alive for 10 more seconds, but TSM will use those 10 seconds to take down the last standing tier 2 here in the mid lane, and they back themselves away.
And I'm waiting for Hauntzer to hit one of these barrels, because he is 70% crit right now. And if he could just land one, oh,
kaboom!
If he could just land one on somebody, the caster curse coming in full effect.
He hit a minion, does that count?
Yeah, somebody. Minions are people do. Oh.
Was that 4 barrels?
He had one in the bush. He had one that he placed by him for some reason.
I mean, none of them hit anything, but it was still 4 barrels.
Yeah, his last barrel was a little shorted. Should be a little further up, but didn't have the range.
All right,
he's warming up.
Pressuring onto the bottom lane. It's the Taliyah wall yet again. Bjergsen using these walls wonderfully to zone their opponents away so they cannot protect these turrets. Then they just back out, wait again, see if they can find those opportunities.
Yeah, a champion that took a bit of the back seat to, you know, Rise, Azir, Malzahar meta that we've been seeing. Now engaged, but
Contractz can't do anything there. Instantly going to be losing the passive. TSM should clean him up, except for the fact that TP is going to be used to get him out. It won't even matter. Bjergsen going on a killing spree here. With your main engaged, your main tank down. Golden Guardians have to wonder how they're going to survive this.
And Golden Guardians, they're going to have to survive against this super minion push on the top side of the map with 2 minion waves coming in.
There's your barrels, Irene. Sejuani ulti comes down, finds its way on the Lourlo. Now your other frontliner is dead. TSM looking to put the final nails in the coffin, and Hauntzer grabbing the kill onto Matt. The Nexus turret's the targets. Number 1 drops. TSM keeping their opponents in the fountain, not letting them anywhere near this defense. The minion wave is still there. The turrets are still falling. Sven goes forward. There's just nothing the Golden Guardians can do. High nearly gonna drop, but the Nexus goes first. An 8-0 victory for TSM.
The shutout for TSM, exactly what they wanted to see here up against the Golden Guardians, moving themselves to 2 and 3 and a little bit further from that bottom pack.
And that's what we said for TSM this game was about. You need to start finding those wins. If you want to say, yeah, we're that team everybody thinks we are. We're that team that's loaded with this star power that everybody's expecting to live up to the TSM name and go to the playoffs and do all these amazing achievements that you always see TSM being one of the teams in the conversation for who's the best in North America. That's what you got to see. They need to start turning it on, working together as a team. We got to see some great team play from them here.
And I really liked seeing MikeYeung on the Sejuani. I talked about the Shyvana, the Kha'Zix. his champion pick usually was the one that stood out to me as not being synergistic with the composition, where they could use maybe another tank, right? But I really like the Sejuani here. I like the way that he played it. I like the pressure he exerted on the bottom lane. It kind of made it so that the Golden Guardians' winning lane pick was shut down by all of the pressure from Taliyah, GP, and the Sejuani to boot.
MikeYeung on the Sejuani, absolutely fantastic. I'm sure we're going to see TSM drafting him some more similar picks like that in the future because it worked out so well for this team in this game. At the same time, though, we can't get too crazy on TSM. Oh man, TSM's back just yet, because TSM took down a team that was also at the lower end of the standings in the Golden Guardians. So now TSM's saying, all right, we're getting that synergy together. This is a team where you've seen posts on social media and on Twitter and things like that where they're saying, give us a little bit of time. We're going to get our act together. We just need to get that synergy down, start working as a team. We're going to become a well-oiled machine here as things go on. Well, it looks like that machine is starting to turn.
Yeah, and it's never too late to get your season right on track. CLG showed earlier today, right, taking down Echo Fox. You can't always count these teams out and almost never count them out because they can spring back and they can have upsets happen. But in this case, this is one of the ones where TSM said, we don't want that to happen to us. We need to start climbing. So respected Golden Guardians, and we're able to close it out.
Yep, they had a great early game. The mid game got really slowed down for a while. You could tell they were definitely hitting the brakes, making sure they didn't make any big mistakes, but they didn't fall into the trap that they did versus Optic, versus Echo Fox, where it just completely stalled out on the side of the road and they couldn't get it started again. Instead, they were able to make it so they just coasted for a little while, and then as soon as they had the opportunity, they hit the gas again.
Yeah, and I really like that because the TP kind of took some wind out of their sails where Lourlo had his still up, and then they played around it by going to where Lourlo was, and I like that adaptation because it did keep their foot on the gas pedal.
Well, an 8-0 victory is going to make anybody feel good, but let's go ahead and send things down to Avali May and the TSM jungler.
MikeYeung?
MikeYeung?
Thanks, guys. I'm here with MikeYeung. Now, that game, incredible. You guys dominated. I want to ask you a little bit about coming off of some of the losses from TSM. How were you able to regain your confidence and pull off today's win?
Well, at one point I was like, everybody's like, just play with no regrets, and that started working. So Mithy always like said, just play with no regrets, right? And the last 2 games, I just did that. And I just played normally, like in scrims. Before, like my first 2 games, like I was like shaking and stuff. I was afraid I was going to misclick flash. And I wasn't thinking because I was afraid of like doing that stuff. So just played just like that.
Well, I mean, that may have worked to your advantage because today you had a very dominant game. Was just playing without risks the only thing that changed about your play today, or was there something that you guys had done in practice?
In practice, we just tackled like all our issues. Like when it came to communication, I think that we still need work on that, but it just improved a lot compared to the first week. And since we started practice late, we're only going to get even better as time goes.
Now, talking about those communication issues, I wanted to ask, what is TSM doing as a team to kind of combat those? And you specifically, what are you doing to address those issues?
So personally, I think that when I'm in control of the game, that I can, like step up and shot call and tell us what to do next. Or say, for example, like Soren is popping off and he's really fed, then he'll take control of the game that in that situation. We still haven't figured it out 100%, but we might continue to do like the 3-man shot calling, 3-man, and go into the game with a lot of different inputs, or we might just go to 1 main shot caller. It's just going to we just have to experiment with it.
Now, a lot of the fan base focus for TSM was that 1-3 start. Now you guys are 2-3. Is TSM as focused on that score, or with 6 weeks left in the season, are you guys just ready to pick up more wins?
So I think, and Jesper, Zven, had a really good thing to say, that it's just fucking week 2. So I think that's pretty much how we think about that.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for this interview. And to wrap up this day, we are going to hear from our friends at the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you very much, Avali. 2-3 TSM, our only winless team in the Golden Guardians, sitting at 0-5. But, to MikeYeung's point, that team not too concerned with their record as it stands right now, definitely looking towards improvement and the late season finish.
Yeah, definitely easier to say you're not worried about the record after a win, right? If they're like 0-5, be like, it's only week 3, guys. So the fact that I think they're turning the corner a little bit is more so why they would be less worried. MikeYeung having a better game, saying he's playing without regrets when I mean, there's nothing to regret. So it's much easier to play about regrets when you have an 8-kill-0 death game.
So you tell me this is a perfect game,
I wish we could have
Jat.
said.
Very close.
From Jat's mouth, perfect game, first perfect. No, I'm kidding. But
They
it
played
was.
really
It actually, in all seriousness, it was a near perfect game in the sense that it never really felt like TSM didn't have control over the fact that they were going to win it. Sejuani, MikeYeung's performance. I mean, he definitely got some stuff done in the early game, 100% KP through the laning phase, helping get some of his main carries fed.
And just intelligent ganks overall. The enemy team takes a squishy support that's going to try and bully out the lane, so you go after it early on. You get the flash out, means it's going to be susceptible to repeat gank, so he comes back down at level 6. They're able to hit this one. A little bit of miscoordination. The Q misses out of Mithy, but they're able to just collapse on this fine. Bjergsen's also making his way down, so it's good to see that this is a multi-man effort as opposed to just a single gank attempt.
Yeah, and even though he misses the ultimate in the mid lane here on high and Contractz, they stick around. He stacks up the passive on both, gets 2 E's off, sticks around high as well, but then is still able to get back with the W on Sejuani. And this was the real disaster because MikeYeung was actually holding the Eye of the Herald, so they could just pop it right after that double kill and blow the game wide open.
Yeah, huge advantage off of that mid lane play right there. You know, interestingly enough, Jat, in those early rolls for the bot lane, we saw, like, kind of un-TSM-like aggression, in a sense, at least as we compare it to, you know, again, their first couple weeks of the split. We even likened it in the moment to the LPL, watching the LPL and seeing 5 summoners used on a single gank to secure 1 kill.
And it did slow down a little bit after that. I think if you are a TSM fan, you want to be like, we're back. It's like, oh, hold on a little bit. It's this Golden Guardians, your other victories over Optic. They need like 1 solid win before I think you can really go that far, but it is a massive step in the right direction.
Exactly, and we were kind of commenting that aside from this game ending in 32 minutes, it was very similar to TSM's game against Optic and TSM's game against Echo Fox. And Flowers had a quote that we were like, this could apply to any TSM game. He's like, the state of the game is about the same as the state of the game it was a few minutes ago, or something like that. He said it much better than I did. But the fact that they actually did then force Baron and make the next step is what was lacking in week 2. So if you do look at the progression of this team in week 1, totally hapless. In week 2, they got the first 15 minutes and then hapless after that. And here, now they got about 28 minutes that are going well. Soon enough, feels like they're trending in the right direction.
Incremental improvement for TSM, that's what we're looking for. That's what they've given us so far, but they need to go a lot further if they want to contest for top team in the region. On the side of Golden Guardians, okay, we're 1 day into the coaching announcement. Obviously, there's next to nothing we can draw in terms of, you know, solid conclusions. But this is the only team yet to put a win on the board, and so pretty quickly here, we're going to have to start talking about morale. We're going to have to start talking about what changes do you make? How do you find those victories?
And this is a tough question to answer because the org came in with a very different motto, in a sense, than everyone else, where they're talking about player development and all NA roster, and that's a thing where it's like, okay, so you're kind of expected to lose. Did you expect to lose this bad? Is this a concern now? Like, it's hard to say from the outside exactly what could be going on within this team's internal atmosphere.
Alrighty, well, Echo Fox's loss at the top of the day means they share first with Cloud9, 100 Thieves, and Team Liquid, while Counterlogic Gaming and TSM move up to 5th place alongside Clutch Gaming and FlyQuest. Before we move on to tomorrow's matches, though, let's go ahead and pull up the player of the games to see who stood out in their wins. For today, they are Stixxay, Smoothie, Meteos, Pobelter, and MikeYeung. Looking at this roster of fellows, who do we want to talk about?
I kind of like Smoothie just because he was someone that we were talking about ones to watch today. Had a great game, obviously was able to kind of lead C9 to victory, and that was very impressive for me.
Yeah, we were super close to actually getting one from every role. I was trying to go through right there. We had 2 junglers, an AD, a support, and a mid laner. So close on the top lane.
No good top laners in that game, man. That's
really, it's strange too because even last week we were commenting that a lot of the games were being played around the top lane. And I know we didn't necessarily see any kind of direct changes to too many of the picks, but I felt like today a lot of the game was trending around the mid lane and bottom lane, and the top laners just kind of neutralizing each other.
Yeah, looking at that set of 5 players, I actually wanted to point at Pobelter. I know we gave him a fair amount of praise following their game in which he was a large part of their early lead on his Corki play, but in general, this is a guy whose career has always existed in the shadow of maybe 1 or 2 other mid laners players. And so, again, the question is, with a struggling TSM, you know, on the boards, and again, a CLG that is also struggling, is this maybe Pobelter's year to finally solidify himself as perhaps, you know, the top or mid laner rather in NA?
Man, I gotta check myself every time I say positive things about Pobelter, because we were having this discussion at Worlds before week 2 last year with the Mortals, and we had all these graphics prepared about like Pobelter finally turning the corner. He had an amazing week 1 at Worlds, and then did really poorly. So like he actually has, for as consistent as it feels like he's been, I think he's a very inconsistent player. So he's been consistently really good at the start of this year, and I hope it's his year because I really like the guy.
I think given the start of the split, it's hard to argue with anyone specifically over him. Maybe Jensen, but it is very close amongst those two probably for my top mid right now.
All right, we'll see who can stand out with our matchups tomorrow. The day starts with Echo Fox versus Optic Gaming. Then TSM try to knock down 100 Thieves with 3 more games before we close out the weekend. Now for myself, the casters, and the entire live broadcast crew, thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow for more LCS. Good night. LCS and ADC.
I don't know. I want to win, but I hope he's the worst. So.
Both junglers looking to do what they do best.
Nice! Yeah, I'm fighting top. I'm holding top right now.
Okay.
Big damage under Dark Shot at the top side. And Mooney is flashless. One more clock will kill him.
Let's go!
If they turn it around, everyone, don't credit the players and the coaching staff. Credit Jack for changing his opinion.
Yeah, going.
Guys, watch me!
Yeah.
Yo, guys, go finish Drake too, Captain. I'm gonna hit Drake. Wait, keep going. We can end the game.
Do you believe it? It's Counter Logic Gaming when all hope was lost to give the first defeat of the season to Echo Fox. Woo! Wave the Rune King slow, Ren slow, and there was one. The flash not quite in range! They gotta respect a lot of it. Shockwave, good flash wave from Sneaky, but still look at the damage over the guy. They're gonna start slaughtering everybody too already. Look at the third as the Cadian's about to fall. One more shot does him in, and kill for Sneaky.
The fight we needed, no Baron.
Don't go too hard. Get the one auto. I'm going.
Nice one.
Back up.
I do not think so. Bjergsen grabbing the kill on that one.
If I'm Zach, I'd need four TPs on my team to TP to every Bob, so I come back as healthy as possible.
The stopwatch to buy some time as well. The knockup, the AoE taunt there as well as the damage going to be had though. Is Lyra about to lose his life?
Oh my
But
God.
flag and drags out. Are you kidding me? He survived. He just the fray. But look at that. It's Galio. He's got ability power. He's got damage. He's got a kill.
Right here. No flash.
100 Thieves will mount the comeback. What a game.
Devlin's gonna go ahead and pop the hourglass. Still looking to get himself out. Might be able to. Never mind.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Sejuani ulti comes in. The rest of the members are going to be routed. Shrimp can't get away. Can they beat their own record? Yes, they can! By 2 seconds!